What's up, everybody? It's Chad. We're back again with another episode this week of Ask Chad Grassy Logic. I'm here today with my friends Jonathan and Anthony. Thank you, fellas, for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Of course, man. And it's great having you both. And thank you for joining me at kind of a short notice. I asked you, 2 weeks ago? Like a week and a half ago? Maybe 2 weeks ago? Yeah. So I kind of kept the bottom part of my season a little more open because I've noticed towards the end of the season, more people kind of want to jump on and certain things happen and I discover certain things. So I'm like, okay, this is kind of working out, because I discovered you guys. So I won't speak for you. If without further ado, could you please, introduce yourself to my audience?
Sure thing. So my name is Jonathan. I'm a owner operator at Momma's Boy Organics. So we started this, almost 2 years ago now, really. Mm-hmm. So we started in 24, but we had to go through the red tape in the city and figure all of that out, figure out special use permits, and it took some time. And then we had to work on the building because the building wasn't suited for it. Yeah. And honestly, we get by. Yeah. So we get by with what we have and the setup that we made there. And honestly, it's been really interesting. Really nice. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the industry.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anthony, go ahead.
And I've just been his just right-hand man, just kind of helping him out along the way, just cleaning the building out, getting it all prepped, doing the work, and doing the work on the plants as well.
Nice, man. And so it's great having you both on the show too, because I'm just meeting you both gents too as well. So it's kind of cool for me. So a lot of these questions I don't know the answers to, because sometimes when I bring guests on, I already know some of the answers to it because I know them, but I'm let my audience get to know them. So this is great that all of us get to learn at the same time. So without further ado, we'll get into the episode and everything. And thank you everybody for joining. So let's talk about the Momma's Boy part first, and then we'll get into you guys because I'm curious where the name came from. Oh.
It's funny because it gets asked a lot. They're just places, vendors that we work with, they're like, we're meeting with, they'll ask about us. So like, why this name? And honestly, I'm a big Momma's Boy. That's really what it comes down to. But there's a whole backstory to it, and honestly, I could go for hours about family and things like that. But I wasn't the best kid growing up. After a certain time, as I got into like teenagers and stuff like that, I got myself into trouble here and there, doing things I shouldn't have been and just acting a fool, really. Yeah. So things change. But through that whole time period, and even finding a plant in the house, I had a plant in the house when I was like 17. Yeah. And my mom found it in the closet. She let me keep it. She was on the phone pissed. She was like, hey, you need to get home. I don't know what the hell you think you're doing with the plant in here, so you need to get home and figure this out. I'm going to throw this out. I'm going to call your dad. And I was like, no. I was like, just hold it. I'll take care of it. Yeah. When I get there, just don't kill it, please. Leave it be. And she paused for a minute and she just talked back in and she's like, all right. She's like, just come get it out. I won't say anything. Just come get it out of here. And that was the first plant I ended up growing. So I kept it and we went through its run and I had to leave it with some friends and they cooked it. So it didn't go through, but we learned a lot off of just running that little plant. Yeah. But she's been the focal point and just my support. Yeah. So like no matter how bad of a kid I was or the dumb shit I did and the plant stuff, like she always knew that I could figure it out, but she just wanted to be there for me and support me through it. So nice. Honestly, it's a note to her. And I lost a brother, so I'm her only son now. And that's kind of that deal.
Well, I'm sorry to hear, man. Condolences to you and your family.
Yeah, thank you.
That's sometimes that's the reason why we're in this industry, because of stuff like that. So that's a cool story, how the name came along. Kind of figured, but you never know. It could be something else and everything. Yeah. So, awesome. Well, what got you involved? I mean, you've been involved in cannabis for a very long time, but what made you decide to get into the regulated cannabis industry?
So honestly, that came from being in the traditional market. Mm-hmm. So I started growing, and I haven't been growing that long. I started growing during COVID in 2020. Mm-hmm. So we're locked up at the house. It's trying to figure out what are you going to do there. I work a regular job that I still work at home and had a lot of extra time. So I was like, hey, I'm tired of doing this, traditional market stuff. I'd rather just like learn how to grow it, have it there, and just get an opinion on it, and get better at that. And it turned into a hobby. So through that, route of moving through that, we got it to people, we got really good feedback. Mm-hmm. He was the first one to really notice it, from the go. So we kind of tangoed and he wanted to learn how to grow. So everything that I was learning, I was just passing to him, pass ideas, passing methods. And honestly, it just went from there and it just didn't stop. So giving it out and getting feedback on it was the biggest thing. Yeah. And we've hunted, seeds on seeds on seeds at this point. But even like the library that we always kept what we had, and it's 4 strains at the time because of the feedback that we got from the people that were trying it.
Yeah.
So we never had like testing or anything like that. You know, we didn't know what these things tested at or terpenes or anything like that. We were just getting it out to people like, hey, you know, like give me feedback. What can we improve on? Like, what do you notice about it? And it went good. So
Nice.
yeah, that just sprung us in. And I was like, you know what, if I could get into a bigger area of getting this to people and do it legit, you know, not really have to worry about the things we're worrying about, then I'd rather do that, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
So it was a shock to come into the industry though, definitely.
It's a big change, you know, especially when it comes to the bureaucracy that's, you know, like involved with everything.
Yep.
You know, not just getting your license, but even after that, there's just more bureaucracy after
Keep
bureaucracy.
stacking new rules, new things to learn.
Yeah,
New stuff to,
And, you know, and I guess for you, you know, like what really got you involved in cannabis? I know he said, you know, he was a big role,
I've
but
just always had a love for the plant for sure, from just getting out of high school and around that time, and just more about the science of it. And that's just always intrigued me. And then getting into living soil, it's just like, just comes together right there, and learning more about that, and just the rest is history at that point.
Nice.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, you kind of just fell into it, huh?
Yeah, just fell into it. I've been learning with him ever since we were like 19.
Yeah, somewhere around then.
And then from that point on, just trying to gain more knowledge, get better, grow a better plant, just put better medicine out. And
Definitely. You know, and that's the goal of it and everything. And that's really where we wanted to be with this industry, because you know, I've been advocating and fighting for this, you know, for about 13 years, and you know, watching the industry change and mold, and you know, us fighting for it to be a certain way. You know, this is the way we wanted it, because we wanted the dude who's growing at home and, you know, letting his friends try it and stuff like that to be able to get into the market at a reasonable price. You know, because in a lot of states you have to have upon millions of dollars of capital to even think about getting in the industry. You know, like, and it's a little ridiculous. You know, that they're keeping a lot of people out who would do amazing things for the industry, you know, even patients, you know, especially the patients, you know, like you're putting out a really good product for the patients, because I've actually tried it, you know, and I think I've told you myself. I went to Queen Bee's, and I was asking her what new stuff she had, and yours popped up, and I was smelling it, and I think it was the Malik. It was the Malik, and I smelled it, and I was like, you know what, out of all of them, I really like that one. And so, you know, I went with that, and after I tried it, you know, I was like, let me message this dude. Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Good job. I'm happy.
Good. It was good to see.
Yeah.
Like I told you, I'd been following you for a minute, just keeping up to date with stuff that's going on, because I was always interested in it. So when you messaged me, I was like, dang. I was like, nice, he found it. So I didn't know you were here in town, though.
Yeah.
But it's a good thing you found it. And I hope it helps you, honestly, because really what we were after, and it showed in the testing. So that's what was cool about running these strains and not knowing anything about them, you know, on a testing scheme.
Yeah.
It turns out that they are medicinal the way that we thought they were medicinal. The terpenes are there, you know, like all the stuff that we were looking for. THC is not bad. We never were really concerned with it if you had the effect, you know. So if you have,
I'm not a THC guy, you know, so I don't even, I ignore it sometimes.
Yep.
You know, like I'll just like put my hand over it kind of situation. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I'll say what tastes the best.
Exactly. That's how we moved from that point. So like when we started hunting seeds and stuff, it was always like, hey, what does it taste like? You know, does the smell transition to the taste? Is that going there? Is it giving you the effect? You know, like what kind of effect? Record your effect, whether you're feeling up, you're feeling down, you're feeling relaxed, you're feeling motivated but relaxed. You know, what kind of effect are you having with this? So it was just collecting data like that. That it was crazy to see once we did get it tested that we were, you know, pretty spot on with these things and what we were saying. So we took guesses as far as like THC and stuff like that, and I'm like, hey, like, on the high end, this, you know, and we're pretty close. You know, there's discrepancy in testing, so
of course
it is what it is, but it didn't do bad. I think the Magic did 22.9, which I thought it was going to sit around there, but because of the other cannabinoids that it has in it, it has a really, I think it's the one that has the higher CBG.
Okay.
So
nice.
I think the total, the total is like 28 almost, I think.
Nice.
So it's super, you know, high on the spectrum as far as medicinal medicine.
Yeah, for sure.
That will definitely help you out on some different levels.
Yeah, it will. And, you know, and even the people that need it for pain, I kind of feel that you don't always have to go the high THC, because having those other compounds in there help you out too. And, you know, like CBG, hearing that it's high in CBG, I'm like, that's great for people that, you know, like use CBG to kind of keep them going and stuff like that during the day. And you guys remember the way that you remember it: CBN, CB night, CBG, CB go. So yeah, you know, and it's great that Huh?
I was saying that's a good way to remember.
I know, right? Yeah, you know, I think one of my employers that had a product that was, you know, kind of like that for that remembrance. I was like, that's a good way to remember it, actually. So, but yeah, it's great to see that there's more products being focused on the other compounds, you know, because it's just been everything is so heavily focused on THC. Right. Even the difference between hemp and cannabis, you know, like it's just literally THC is the only thing that they make the difference. And like, that's what they're laser focused on. Right. And so then it causes all this weird confusion because it's like, well, why does marijuana have THC and CBD? And it's like, because it's the same plant, you dipshit.
It's naturally existing. It's not going to go away, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's funny. That's when we were going over like the pre-rules meeting.
Yes.
And stuff like that, like how they were, you know, working already on that language and stuff like that, because it didn't make any sense. So it was good to see that was something that was caught early on. And they're just like, okay, get that out of there because we look dumb, you know?
Yeah, it's like, okay, we fucked up. Yeah. And it's great that, you know, they're now like owning up to the mistakes. Exactly. You know, and we appreciate that. People appreciate that. Yeah, you know, it's like, hey man, I fucked up. Let's fix it.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
like
don't let it stroll to the meeting and then you're sitting there arguing about how dumb you are. You know?
Yeah, exactly. It's
Let's
like,
not do that.
Right. Why are you putting a 15-inch plant and nowhere else? Like, and like you're trying to explain it to me, and I'm like, it still doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So, and we'll get to the rule stuff here in a little bit, guys. Too. I'm excited to talk about it, especially with him, because you know. They're kind of just getting involved, and so it's great to talk to people just getting involved and everything. But I really want to, you know, kind of hammer down the business you have too, because you guys do no-till, and so the living soil and stuff, essentially, right? For the audience who may be new in the show, could you explain to them, you know, what living soil is?
So that I could give like a backstory that leads up to it because it did evolve pretty heavily through the way that we were testing and growing and stuff like that. So when I first started growing, you had to figure out if you're going to go either, you know, a synganic way or a synthetic way, or if you're going to go just organic, some kind of organic method. So right away, just to me, looking up things and researching, it was kind of clear to me to go organic. I thought it was just the best way to go as far as your health and different things like that, which I mean, there's variable now. It's not all, you know, one is better or this is better. It's you know, what you prefer. And there is good, you know, bottle growers, saw growers, things like that. Yeah. It's just a matter of, I think, loving the plants. But as far as the organic way, so we started out in potted plants. We did potted plants and re-amended stuff with different nutrients. We went through like a whole bunch of different stuff. But as we went on in the journey, we found that there's different quality of inputs. Mm-hmm. So you could be getting these things that, yes, they're organic certified, but what's the quality of that input? Mm-hmm. Where's the source of that input? So are you know, what kind of heavy metals does it have in it? Things like that. Right. So we broke out of, you know, a lot of the stuff that we were using because of this. And after we realized that it could be something that we go into the legal market with, we wanted to make sure that it was clean. Yeah. And I don't know about the heavy testing stuff that they do now. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of it. But before we started, we wanted to make sure we were ahead and we didn't have that issue, because there's a lot of organic growers that will have that issue if they're not paying attention to it right now. Yeah. So we went with a whole new set as far as we're almost veganic right now. Really? So yeah, there's not a whole lot that we use that's animal byproduct at this point. The builder flower that we do use, that's one of really the only things that we've used in between the first run, because we're waiting for worm population to get up. We had cover crop going that we cut down, and that's getting processed by worms. So we're going to send out a sample soon here for the soil. But when we transitioned to that, we just found that you could do this in such a much cleaner way, you know, as far as inputs, things that aren't, I guess, synthesized, or things that aren't heavy metal, you know, abundant, whether that's things from the ocean. So if you think about organics and things from the ocean, obviously they're going to have heavier metal content. And really any kind of like animal byproduct, like chicken meal, feather meal, that kind of stuff, bone meal, like that stuff is just super high in heavy metals usually. Yeah. So you kind of want to stay away from stuff like that if you're trying to avoid that problem. But at the same time, going through into the soil, we're at the point now where we have to get a soil test. So we went through the first run, you know, we had cover crop, like I said, it went through the run. So we had a living mulch through the run. And then at the end of the run, that got chopped down and let it dry out a little bit. We covered it that way it could just die off. And then all that material was readily available for the worms now. Yeah. So we wanted to have something for them to feed on before we stuck them in there, you know. We defoliated into the beds too through the first run. So every leaf that we're defoliating is just into the bed, you know, whether we chop it up if it's big or just throw it in as a whole leaf. We just try to make sure that all of the organic matter is going back into the bed at that point. So we got a real nice mulch layer. We got our compost layer over it. Let the worms start doing their work while we're trimming, and we do all the trimming in house. So
nice.
It was just me and him. Honestly, we just
lot of
sat there
work.
and trimmed. Yeah,
I hate trimming too, man. You
Yeah.
guys do a good job. I've seen it.
We
You know,
try.
you guys do a really
we're
good job
pretty
too.
strict about it,
Yeah.
and that's why it's hard to like bring anybody in. And like I told you, there's not really a whole lot of people that I was like willing to bring in, to trust. And he had been working with me through pretty much everything. So I'm like, dude, you're the one, like if I need somebody, you're gonna be it. So
Yeah.
you down for it, and of course,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it was just like clockwork, just going back and forth. But back to the soil stuff. So now the worms is set. That's good to go. We've gone through the run now. We haven't had any issues really, honestly,
Nice.
as far as nutrition, things like that. But the no-till way of growing is not disturbing the soil. So I see in some places, where they do it a little bit different, I guess. They have like low till, but it's not no-till, I guess.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
difference is that you're not really plugging into the soil or moving it or disturbing the soil or really doing anything like that with it. You're letting everything grow, in the bed and letting it maintain and sustain. And there comes a point where you do have to do amendments, but over time it's going to be less and less. You should have a good ecosystem going and everything's taking care of itself. And in the no-till set, we have predators in the soil. So we have rove beetles, we've got predator mites, 2 different kinds. We've got ladybugs in the room. We've used green lacewing larvae, pirate bugs. I don't know if you've ever heard of pirate bugs.
No, I actually haven't.
Pirate bugs.
Yeah, what's a pirate bug?
So they're these little, I want to say a little bit bigger than a grain of rice. And they're spotted, they're black and white. But they have a pincer, kind of like a mosquito. And they'll poke something and they'll drain it. So they're targeted for like a whole bunch of different pests.
Yeah.
We have them in there and they bite people. So we haven't gotten bit, but before I got them, I read up on them, and apparently they're problems in different places of the country and stuff.
Yeah,
like They'll bite people and mess you up, but they're good for the plants. So we brought them in, and it's been good like that. We don't have to use any kind of like chemical sprays or anything like that. They go crazy.
Yeah.
So we kind of just try to keep that motion up and moving, that way we're not having to catch up later.
Yeah.
So
what do you, and this is a question I just thought about, what do you feel the scalability of no-till is? Because, you see all these farms, 10,000, 20,000, 100, whatever, how many thousand plants they have, and they mostly do, automatic feeding, synthetic, lines, et cetera, et cetera. How scalable is this? Because if someone really wants to try this on a bigger scale and they have the money, I mean, they could, but, how good of a product do you think they could come out with if it just, you can't give it the attendance that you can give it on a smaller scale?
Okay. You can do it. It's doable. It's not impossible. The thing is just making sure that you're on top of everything. It is a lot to be on top of, and it's a big upfront cost.
Yeah.
So to get all the soil to fill beds, it's huge. Like for our 4 beds, I think we spent close to $3,500 on soil.
Holy shit.
So so it's a big upfront cost.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing is putting up all that money and then trusting that system to be able to maintain and sustain and put out a good product, and that you're going to trust yourself to make sure that you're on top of everything, So I think that's where it's a challenge, but it can be done.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard to say because I don't know like a whole lot of places doing it, but you have to have some good money up front if you're going to be at scale. That way you get it done, and you get it done the right way. Trying to think more at like a scale level.
Yeah, even
because it's not really even in our plans, to be honest. Like we don't ever really want to be like a big scale place, but there's places doing it. I don't know if you've ever heard of No-Till Kings in California.
Yes, I have actually.
Yeah, so they're doing it at scale, and they've been doing it for a while now, and they do a good job. They have a really nice build out, but I think it's scaled. Carver too. Carver's doing
great. Yeah, I've been to his facility.
He's a little guy in a big market.
Yeah. Andrew's killing it. He's doing
great. I had to
great.
give him kudos the other day because I was like, dude, listening to him in the meeting, I was like, that's crazy. Like your words, like your knowledge, like you're just on it, bro. Like on it. If
you ever get a chance, go to his facility, dude. You'll be blown the fuck
I got
away.
a little tiny. I was talking to him. I went through one of their halls and got to see one of the flowering rooms before I went into the dispo. And I was already, just off of that, I was impressed. I was like, damn, because I was barely getting set up to get into the market. I was like, they're doing it right. Like, I went to Albuquerque and I knew where I was going. So I went there and I picked up some flower and I loved it. So I was like, damn, this is awesome. But no, he's really cool guy. Definitely smart. But he's doing it at a scale, you know, like it's definitely possible, but you have to be like that. You have to be like on top of your game, know what you're doing, be willing to make mistakes and learn from them. Like there's different things that just, you have to be able to do that stuff to scale it. Yeah. And that's in itself, part of the problem of being scalable is if you want to keep up with that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's doable though. There's sets, where you can set drippers. There's different ways to do it where it takes labor out, but as far as quality, like you just got to be on it. That way it's consistent. And I think honestly, that way of growing gives a better consistency to me.
Yeah.
Because you're taking care of the soil, you're letting the plant take what it wants. As long as you control all the other variables, you should have a pretty consistent product.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that even growing for me, like when we first started growing, the plants weren't like super amazing, but they were good.
Yeah.
They're not any worse than what we were getting, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And it was like, dang, if we could do this like with little knowledge, like baby knowledge of it, then it could probably get pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And it's been cool to see like through the years that it can get pretty crazy.
Yeah, it can. And that's one thing I've noticed is, the bigger grows, they don't have the knowledgeable growers to put out the product that would require for that, and they don't have the amount of growers that that they need to for the product, because you got to touch every plant essentially.
Yeah.
You got to be in there, you got to check, and in your case you have to check soil too at the same time. You're not just looking at the plants and everything and looking at lines, you're looking at other things too. Bug health, if you're missing bugs, a predator bug, like
ratios start changing.
Exactly. Your ecosystem's not balanced. Something's wrong. If
exactly.
Something's blocked, and you say you do have a dripper system, you don't know it's blocked until you go check.
Right.
And you might see the plant from afar as like, oh shit, why is that plant dying? When you should have seen that.
You caught it ahead of time.
Exactly. Yeah. And now that plant's stressed and it could be behind, et cetera, and it could put something else out and throw everything off. And, there's a lot goes into it. So yeah, like doing it at scale, it takes that passion.
Yeah.
And I think it would take someone with the right passion and the right funds to really do it at a larger scale, even from like Carver family. Because he's doing quite a bit for his scale, but to even go beyond that, you would have to have a lot of funding, because the soil stuff, and then even amendments and stuff, and labor on top of it. Yeah, space.
That's the thing, because like if you're doing the no-till set, you're gonna do it in beds,
Yes.
So you have to be able to fit. It's not pots, and you can't move them all the time. Like they're not super mobile, unless you do something like what Andrew has. He's got the carts, the casters on them, so he can roll them around, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But you have to be different like that, and even then you can roll it around, but can you take it out of the room, different things like that. So you have to be able to account for that stuff too.
Mm-hmm. You do. And it's, what if something goes wrong? Can you fix it? And this and that. So yeah, there's a lot of things. And and it's great that I've been seeing more of the micros and I would say smaller macro farms using the no-till stuff. And actually Andrew started doing more of the Korean farming stuff too. He was getting into that.
Into KNF now.
Oh yeah, dude, for sure. He's been dabbling with that, and I want to see more farms get into that too.
Yeah.
And in Hawaii, they're revamping their medical program, and I've kind of helped those guys with some information and stuff, and sent them the stuff that we've been working on, and I can tell that they've used some of that to mold what they've did now. And to be honest, they went beyond that, and I was like, bravo! Oh no notes, homies, good job! Like you guys killed it with that. They're really promoting the Korean farming in Hawaii, especially have such great soil over there, you know what I mean? Like in such great growing environment, that why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, you can make a lot of your own stuff that you need for it. And
yeah,
that's really what it is like getting it to self-sustain is like that's pretty key.
Yeah, exactly. And they have such, like I said, a great, soil and ecosystem already that, it should be pretty fast for them. And, it's so expensive in Hawaii, especially the electricity, that it makes more sense for them to go to either like a light dep, greenhouse or outdoor kind of situation versus just straight indoor. Because I lived in Hawaii, and man, that electric bill was harsh. I'd run my air conditioner one night and I'm like regretting it the rest of the month. Yeah, I'm like, dude, I was like almost $50. Yeah, so it's great to see that. And the micros in New Mexico, and I'm not just saying this, I hear this all the time, even at the legislature, the micros are the backbone of our industry. And it's proving that it's taking the quality of cannabis and bringing it to another level. It was like down here, cheap as shit, but now it's up here. Yeah, of course the cost is a little higher for this, but God, it's so much better up here. It tastes better, it's a better experience, and you tend to smoke less because you are getting medicated off the little bit that you are smoking. You hear those people like, whoa, I was blitzed. I was like, yeah, exactly. That's what it's supposed to do. Not like you smoke 5 bowls and you're still like, what's going on?
Going at it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember that days.
Yeah, exactly. Those days are over, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's great, man. I'm glad you guys are, really getting into it. But, I wanted to ask you guys this too, you know, especially for the people out there that are in the similar situation, either in the process of getting started or thinking about it. You know, what are some advice that both of you could, you know, give maybe the future entrepreneur in the New Mexico cannabis industry?
Have some money up front.
Okay.
Like some extra money, just in case things don't go the way you planned, as far as like red tapes, things like that, you know, other things you can't control. Definitely have some extra money, you know, backed up beyond what you're budgeting for.
Yeah.
So have that backup. Do you want to give one?
Don't overload your
think you're
plate.
ready.
Make sure you have some free time on your hands, because there's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
And if you're not spending your time learning as much as you can, I mean, the product's just not going to get as good as you want it to. And having that free time really is key.
Yeah.
I mean, I run a business with my family, but every moment that I have that's free, it's going to learning, spending time over there with the plants.
Definitely, and the product shows that you guys are putting a lot of passion behind it. So,
yeah.
you know, I'm proud to say that you guys are in Las Cruces and operating in the same area as me. So that's great. You know, and you know, having great local operators is awesome. You know, and meeting people with the right passion. But you know, what's the future plans for you guys?
I was gonna get more on startup stuff.
Oh, sure, heck yeah, do it, please.
Have some good resources.
Okay.
So like, have your resources available, whether it's your HVAC guy or your electrical guy. Like, make sure you're on top of those people. That way, you're ahead of time and you can plan. Try to make that a bit smoother. I think that's definitely something that, you know, goes a long way as far as setting up. Good friends or labor, you got to find that, because it's not easy. It depends on your setup too, though. So hanging lights, like, you know, as much as I think people would want to be like a one-man op, it's hard. You know, you can't do it 100%.
Yeah.
So like having solid friends or people like Anthony, like go hang up lights, shovel soil, you know, like things like that. So have solid friends on hand. I'd say be on time with your bills, even if your buildings are vacant and stuff. Some of you got to pay attention to make sure you're paying the necessary like utilities and stuff that are monthly. You know, like stay on top of your bills. Really is a big thing. So whether it's your rent, all that, make sure you're cool on that. Location is important. I think as far as the building that you're gonna start in, because you need to think about how you're gonna seal rooms, you know, seal areas. Are you gonna be able to put what you want in these areas? So really think about where you're gonna put stuff before you just go and like, hey, I'm gonna get this spot or whatever. But outside of that, that's really more how it was for us. And then money, of course, you know. So, I mean, my best advice is try to do it on your own. I can't, you know, give one way or the other more, but I know people have access to investors and stuff like that. If you want to go that route, you know, by all means, but I'd say if you can, try to do it by yourself first.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And that's my advice to people, is try not to have those investors, because, you know, you're not tied to someone that you 100%. Owe. You know, if you mess up, it's on you, and you know, you can either try again or just move on. So, you know, versus being sued.
And then that could be like worst case scenario, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I think that's funny, because it's like part of what you're saying, like you've got these growers in these big facilities, you know, and you're saying it's hard to find them. And I think that's part of the problem, is because they don't have, you know, like a whole lot of interest in some of these companies, some growers. Yeah. So it's kind of like the ones that want and do good quality, you know, they want some kind of vested interest in the company or moving forward, you know. So I think that's also part of the problem with some bigger places is, you know, I don't think they're giving that kind of access.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, you know, and they kind of overlook. And a lot of times I think they cheap out when they run into a good grower. You know, they think that they can pay him minimum wage. It's like, you're not going to pay a good grower minimum wage. I'm sorry. Yeah. You know, like that's the reason why professionals are paid well, is because they're professionals. You're not paying for, you know, knowledge, you're paying for experience. Yeah. You know, like you're paying for more than just beyond them knowing something. You know, like they may be able to knock out 1,000 clones in a couple hours. You know, like that's impressive if someone could do that. You know, like I've done, you know, hundreds of clones of whatever the fuck, and it takes a long time.
It does.
You know, like even like 500 clones takes a while. Yeah. You know, but if someone can knock something out like in a ridiculous amount of time, you're paying for that experience. You know, just like that meme we've all seen about the welder. You know, he goes and does a whatever $200 an hour weld, and he does a $20 weld, and you know, goes to the boss. It's the same thing. Yeah. You know, you got this grower who can take this shitty facility and do an amazing job with it and clean it up, and you don't want to pay him correctly. Exactly. Well, you're going to miss out. You're going to go out of business because the product that you have isn't going to be worth what you're putting out.
Exactly.
Know, so.
And I think that ties into, if you're wanting to start up a business, like say you are someone that doesn't know how to grow and stuff like that, but you have the capital or whatever to start a business, take care of those people, take care of your growers, the people that go in and trim, even those people, like they're super critical. As critical as we are, if I were to be paying somebody to do it, I'd expect a good job. But that's why, at the end of the day, I don't want to be the guy that's like hounding you on trimming, So until we need to, we'll be trimming. But I mean, that's the other thing too, is like taking care of your staff and making sure that, if you're not ready to handle, that, then think about it some more, because those people are worth a lot.
Definitely. And that's a huge thing is, you're an employer now, and you have to remember that, and treat your people well, because they'll treat you well too. And don't get me wrong, there's bad apples everywhere, but for the most part, you'll get, really great results if you treat your people well, you know what I mean? And treat them fair. So I appreciate you guys, giving us the, the advice that you gave, all the history and stuff with y'all and everything. But, what are the future plans for you guys?
Honestly, like I was telling you earlier, we don't plan to scale like super big. I want to keep it small because to me, craft and quality stuff, it ties hand in hand with being small to me. And right now, like, we only flower, I think we have 44 plants flowering right now.
Nice.
Nothing crazy. So we plan to expand maybe by like 2 more beds, like maybe 4 more lights, 4 to 6 more lights at max. But at one time, we're never going to be flowering more than maybe 70, 75 plants. So
micro, like, the definition of micro.
Yes, and it's going to stay like that, because I've seen it already, where like you get a little bit too big and then you're in this different market. And the way I like to explain it is we decided to do it like this because I'm not stressing about being in the market. We've kind of just put ourselves in our own little market, or this little climate market where there is other people. And I don't have, pounds on pounds on pounds of product to get rid of. We have enough to keep growing, but we don't have to worry about not being able to sell stuff. We don't have to worry about being in as many shops. We'd love to, but at the same time, already this intro into the market, I've already had an experience where we've lost a vendor, So there's just different things like that come up. And if you're a big business, losing a vendor, one vendor that buys a lot, would be a big hit. But in this case, it doesn't really do much. Like, we can get into another shop. And I've actually had to kind of like vet to see who we're going to get the rest to, because we want to work really locally too. We want to work with the people in their local areas that own the shops, and like they're in there operating it and they're doing their thing. So that's really where we want to be at, is just within a few shops that are super solid. We can, even when our product's not on the shelf, we could recommend people to go there because we know there's going to be good product there, whoever else they have on the shelf. So I think expanding too big is just going to take us out of that, kind of micro market that we have, within that group of there's a few people that are in that group, but it makes it a lot easier. Honestly, it's a lot less stressful. Like I tell the vendors, I'm like, I'm not worried about taking anybody's shelf space, and I'm not worried about us losing our shelf space. I'm like, because if you love this, we're gonna do our best to keep it consistent and to bring new stuff, obviously, and do different things, but we're not looking to like expand out to where we want to take over your whole shelf and do this, but we do want to work with you because you have great product from other people, So that's really the goal, is just to be within the people that are taking care of business as far as quality, how they treat their customers, how they treat their staff. It's all like tied in. So when we go visit places, we see that all the time,
From the outside of the building to the inside, and I like that. And, I try to tell people, don't oversaturate yourself. Don't, it's great to be everywhere, but then you end up oversaturating yourself, and then you kind of shoot yourself in the foot, and it goes the other way, So, this industry is ever changing, that we kind of have to operate carefully, because, what works today may not work tomorrow or next week. You know what I mean? Like the market changes. Like now we're finally getting people to understand that THC isn't everything. So, our conversations are changing, and it's happening real time. And people are like, oh, it's not really happening that fast. I'm like, no, but it's happening.
It's happening.
Exactly. I'm like, I don't care the fact that it's taken me since probably I started, getting away from the THC thing around 2017, 2018. That's kind of when I kind of put it on my radar. And it's taken us that long to get to the point where we're at now.
It's not going that way anymore, and it's not, midline anymore. It's starting to go the other way.
It's starting to go towards the way that we need it. It is. It's good, because, people are starting to wake up and see that, okay, I don't want this product that's $50 an ounce. I'll get this product that might be $30, $40 an eighth. but I'm gonna have a better experience.
Yes.
I'm gonna smoke less. You know, I'm not gonna have to need that whole ounce because this better product is gonna do it for me.
It might last you the same anyways.
Exactly.
Right.
And, you know, and with people promoting also, you know, like microdosing, you know, like, and that's something that I need to get back to myself. I've noticed recently, just being stressed, I'm smoking too damn much. You know, I need to get back to microdosing. You know, like, I know when we get stressed, we do that sometimes, but, you know, it's not the best for us. And microdosing sometimes is the better option. And I've noticed when I microdose in these options, it's better for me, you know? So, you know, like it needs to be a reminder sometimes to us. But, you know, when we promote something like that, you know, it works better, you know, like I pay a little bit more, but it lasts a little bit longer because I'm smoking less and I get medicated at the same time. It's like, well, damn, it works because of this. You know, if I had to buy the $200 ounce, that's probably why, you know, certain people aren't, you know, microdosing, you know, like on the regular, you know, it could be the stress too, like myself, but, you know, that could be the reason.
It's different reasons.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone has their reasons. So, but yeah, you know, I appreciate you guys, you know, coming in, you know, sharing your story and everything, but I look forward to keeping the conversation going with the other topics and everything that have gone on. Do you guys have anything else before we move on?
No, not at all.
Well, where can people find you guys online and I guess, you know, real life?
So as far as online, just Instagram right now, we have 2 accounts because one got taken down, unfortunately, but we got it back.
Oh, yeah. I saw that, yeah.
So we got it back. And then we're working on a website, and I think that's really where we're going to start transitioning to, like, where we're available. That way we don't get into any kind of grift with Instagram anymore, because we have built a following slowly. So, and that's just how we want it, you know, just organically, the people that try it. We have little QR codes that we give to the dispensaries. That way they can put it on the counter, they can scan it, takes them to their Instagram page.
Nice.
But we're working on a website. That way we can get store locators, and then that's it for online right now. We do have a Twitter backup page, but we don't really use it. So
what's the names of the accounts?
So the Instagram is Mama's Boy Organics, and then the backup is linked there, and then the Twitter or the X is linked there as well.
Awesome.
So they're both linked there.
Cool. Well, follow them on Instagram, you know, see what they're putting out and everything, guys. It's some really great product. I've had it myself. So, you know, go and check it out, and thank you again. And let's keep this conversation going, because now we get to talk about the rules stuff. And, you know, this is something I really wanted to talk to you about and update you all about. As you guys know, next Wednesday, is going to be the rules hearing in Santa Fe. I'll be up there, including a bunch of other people in the industry. I don't know how many people total are going to be there, but it's who of you, if you're in the industry, to be there, or at least give your public comment online. I put that link on my Instagram. It's under the advocacy highlights. So this past week, though, a couple of days ago, I had that Zoom hearing, you know, like the pre-rules hearing. I think it was on Monday. And you joined me, Jonathan, and that was great. You know, thank you so much for joining. And, you know, you actually learned a lot, too.
I did.
And, you know, you're getting started on being an advocate in the industry because, you know, I've said this many times and other people have brought it up, even on other podcasts, that when you join this industry, you sign up to be an advocate and you don't even realize it. And once you do, it's like, oh shit.
You get to learn a lot of different stuff, and it's pretty insane, honestly.
Yeah.
And from you posting stuff and just following through it, you know, I think it kind of goes over some people's heads sometimes, but it's just based on that person. So like for me, in my experience, I saw the things we're posting and I like to keep up with them. And then when I saw that you guys were having that meeting, I was like, damn, this would be a perfect time to kind of just sit in and listen and see how this goes. It was the first one I had attended, so I was like, I'd like to know more about what's going on and clarification on like some of the rules, because I didn't know if they had implications on us. You know, because of the way that they're worded and stuff. And it's good to figure out that not really a lot of it did, but there's a lot of things that, you know, say we were in a different licensure as far as our tier, but it would affect us, you know. And it's crazy to see who it does affect. And then you meet good people, you know, that are definitely getting affected by it. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You know, and that was great having you there, and you know, everyone else that joined. Thank you so much. We actually had a pretty decent little showing up and everything. And good news, if you missed it, we're gonna have another one this coming Sunday, so August 31st at 3:30 p.m. I'll put out all the information here very soon, links and all that good stuff. So it'd be great to have you guys there again. This is going to be the last one we're going to have before the actual hearing on Wednesday. The reason why we're having a second one is because we had such great conversations that we actually kind of went over time. And Jonathan, not this Jonathan, the other Jonathan, he didn't buy the premium edition of Zoom. I'm just giving him shit right now, but he did this time, so we're not going to run into that issue. And he was like, "Damn it, guys, my bad. I didn't realize it was going to be that." I was like, "Don't worry, man. At least we have another opportunity." So we're giving everybody another opportunity to come in and kind of, you know, talk about the rules, what you've seen. And to be honest, a lot of good fixes and suggestions came from that first meeting. So I'm excited for the second one and what we'll come up with. Because to be honest, like some things I didn't even think about and some things other people didn't think about. So it was great for us to kind of collab together and be like, okay, well, this sounds like we need to go this route. And from what I'm hearing, because other various people that were in the meeting had some meetings with the CCD and then things like that. And then, the past couple of weeks, and they're saying that it looks like they do want to work with us, and they acknowledge the fact that they messed up on some of these rules when they wrote them. So it's great that they acknowledge that. And some of these rules that we read right now are going to change. And it happens, this happens with every lawmaking process and rulemaking process, especially when it's people not really boots on the ground. When it's people like us, we can tell you it's like, well, if you do that, this and this is going to happen. Or if you do that, I'm just going to do it this way and avoid that whole situation. And they're going to be like, oh shit. Okay. Well, what do we do? It's like, just don't do that.
That's what we're trying to be up to date with, because we don't want to get caught later on down the road and we're like, oh shoot, we're supposed to be doing things this way, you know, because I think that's another thing of running the business is be prepared to keep up with these things because it's a regulated industry and it's a pretty heavy regulated industry. So you don't want to fall behind on catching up on these rules and stuff like that. That's a big thing. Yeah, it is. So be ready for, use the CCD inspection sheet and stuff like that whenever you're setting up your business and make sure that you can check everything off and you're not going to have problems.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really good tip right there is, some people don't even realize that's something that you can have at your disposal is that list. Yep. I think I put that list on my advocacy highlights or my business operator highlights on Instagram. So you guys go check that out and everything. Because it is great to have that so you know exactly what the hell they're looking for. Because, it's just a checklist. It's not like, they're not really allowed to make shit up. I know some of them do. But, it's not like, they're just adding things into the checklist. They're just going down the checklist. And so I know some try to get out of their parameters and tell you things. But, if it's not within their scope, it's like, all right, man, that's the fire marshal's job. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. Yes, and I think it does help with that. So, like, the 2 inspections that we've had, we already had our checklist and had gone over it. So by the time they came in, they're just going through the list. And I'm kind of, like, ahead of them, like, okay, now we're going to go to this. And they're kind of like, okay, like, let's go look at that then. So like already having like the checklist there, I know what's next, so I already have it ready for them to go and it makes it real easy. So both of our visits were, at least less than 20 minutes, less than 20 minutes. Good. And I'm like, all right, cool, you're good. Yeah. Get out of here.
Hopefully they don't mess with you for a long time because, like the whole low hanging fruit shit was dumb for a while. Yeah, that was ridiculous. And hopefully some things change on that front. And I think that's another thing that needs to change, with the CCD. And I think they're aware of it is, I think now they have an app where they can look at all the rules verbatim, and so there's none of this making shit up thing, or saying, well, I think it should be this way. It's like, well, you're not the legislators.
There was actually a shop, and they were telling me that the CCD was giving them a hard time because they didn't have camera footage for 60 days. So it's a 30-day window. After 30 days, you can format or whatever you need to do, but they were giving them a hard time about it. And I think they finally got them to get off of it after some time. But it was just like, dang, man, like you wouldn't think that stuff would happen, with them working on a checklist and stuff like that. So it is good to be aware of that way, that you don't have to be abiding to, these rules that this person's just trying to make off the side.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be happening. But, right now it is, we're figuring it out. And hopefully through time, that stops, and they do go by rule, by law, and, we'll appreciate it a little bit more. And that will educate the operators better because when you start making shit up, like I hear the wildest shit sometimes. I'm like, they told you what? Yeah. Like one got told you have to tax cannabis drinks. And I'm like, what? Like medical cannabis drinks, like, for a medical patient. I was like, no, it says any cannabis product is tax-free for medical patients. Like, where the hell is he reading that? Like, I drove myself crazy looking for it. I'm like, it says it right there in the little Q&A thing, like it's little fucking thing you can see. Like, how did you get that wrong? How did you get it this wrong? Like that's simple stuff. And so, someone told me that and I was like, what? And then I've encountered other things and I'm like, all right, this is ridiculous. Something needs to change. So it's important. The reason why I'm bringing up the rules thing again is because that's how important it is, because of stupid stuff like that. It stops it. And real quick, I'll give you guys some examples of some of the fixes that came from this meeting. And I wanted to make sure that, I brought these up because there are some great examples. One is they were trying to ban you from putting any kind of hemp-derived compounds into cannabis afterwards, like through the manufacturing process. So that means if you wanted a 3-to-1 product, you couldn't do that anymore. You had to find a plant that was 3-to-1 and hope to fucking God that transfers over after you extract it.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly. So, you're going to be playing guessing games a lot. And a lot of people, someone said during the meeting, about 30% of the products on the market would be just gone right off the, that's huge. That's
included, and I didn't think of it, but tinctures.
Yes.
That was a good one. Andrew was talking about, because I was like, oh shoot, like that totally changes your thinking about like certain verbiage and stuff, the way that it needs to be worded, because it will eliminate some of these other products like tinctures.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shoot.
Yeah.
Didn't even think about that.
And some of it was an easy fix. Like they had crossed out for inhalable purposes, right?
Yeah.
They crossed it out, and that meant for everything now. So once they put that back, that means, because they were just trying to get rid of like vitamin E acetate, and things like that, and being put into vapes. They were trying to prevent like the popcorn lung thing from happening, which is understanding, because we get what they were trying to do and fix, but when they did that, they kind of made everything worse. And so our suggestion was essentially just uncross that word and then take the verbiage out where you're banning the hemp stuff and even the tobacco stuff. Because to be honest, if you want a blunt, you're an adult, you should be able to smoke a blunt. Even if I don't like it, your grandma doesn't like it, or Gino doesn't like it doesn't matter. If you want to smoke a blunt, by all means, you should be able to. This is an adult market, and I get it, but at the same time, that's your choice.
Yeah. It's kind of like, well, and I think that's part of where like the legislators, they just don't know, what kind of situation people are in that consume, this is like way back, like smoking blunts is like, I don't know when it started, but it didn't start anytime recently.
Yeah, exactly. It's been around for a minute, and it's kind of been fizzling out, because the quality is a lot better, with the cannabis. And I had a conversation with one of the guys in the industry, and he said, sometimes the blunt does complement some cannabis with it. I was like, that's fair, because some does have that similar smell. But I'm still not a huge fan. I'll smoke it every now and then. I'll try it if they're like, hey, this complements it well. Just okay. I'll see, but it's not my go-to anymore.
Yeah, I was a stickler with the blunts. There was a time period where I just didn't. I was over it. We started getting better weed. Yeah, and you're like, oh, this is terrible. Yeah, so just get rid of it.
This ruined my weed.
Really much it grew, and it's
it's terrible.
Yeah, it's like ugh. So most of the time, it's just not a good idea. But anyway, I digress on that. So our suggestion was just striking out and taking that language out, and that's what we're going to suggest to them. Another one was going to be from the testing portion. So right now, the way that they have it written is you're going to have to get the flower tested, and then let's say you extract it for bubble hash. You'll have to get the bubble hash inspected. Then you squish it. You have to get the squish done, and once it's like a finished product, you have to get it all tested like a bunch of times. And so now, even with like a hash hole, you'll have to get the flower tested. The rosin's going to get tested all through the whole process and everything, right? Then once it's a finished hash hole, you're going to have to get it a full panel testing, because usually it was an inspection and then a potency testing, because it had all been tested up until you put it together. So now they have you testing for pesticides, they have you testing for microbials, they have you testing for all kinds of crap, which is going to make this go way up in price. And to be honest, it doesn't make sense, because these products were already tested when it went into the manufacturing process. So like it doesn't really make sense, because like, who the hell is going to be spraying pesticides on a finished product?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that happens during the grow process. Like that doesn't make any sense what they're trying to fix with that. So our suggestion was just to remove it and to kind of go back and to make it even. It's like, yeah, we get it, things need to be tested, but the end product is what needs to be tested. Like if you really wanted to say like, okay, this batch right here is going to go to pre-rolls or hash holes, cool. It doesn't have to be tested until it's the very last product. Then that's okay. But if it's been tested already, why are we doing this?
Exactly.
Like that doesn't make any sense. Because most of the time, that isn't the case. You usually get a whole batch done, and then you figure out what you want to do with the harvest. Or sometimes you do know what some of it is, but that's not every case. So sometimes it goes to trim, whatever the hell. So it's already been tested. So there's no point to really put it through that rigorous process again. So that was ours for that one on the testing, was just to kind of take that language out because it didn't make any sense. Does this mean they're going to go with our suggestions? No, but it seems like they are willing to listen and change some of these suggestions, because a lot of these are damning, and we kind of need to slowly start deregulating the cannabis industry as is. And I think that's the way that we can start that, is by having these conversations with the regulators and everyone. The next one is going to be the opaque packaging. Now, this one we found out came from a change in the rules because it's in the CRA, which is the Cannabis Regulation Act. What that means is their hands are kind of tied on enforcing this or not enforcing this because it's in the law and they need to enforce it. So what this means is right now you can get a package that has, you can see through it a little bit or whatever, and you can see your product. Now it'll have to be completely, you can't see through it at all. And a lot of the times that costs a lot of money. Like most operators are going to have to spend a lot of money getting this different packaging. Now, the unfortunate part is we're going to have to go through a law change to get this fixed. So until then, hopefully, what I hope will happen is they just kind of look the other way on this because they've been looking the other way on the plant count stuff for, I don't know, years.
Yeah.
So, it's easy for them to look away on things, obviously. So if they could just, I don't know, turn the blind eye on this while we fix this in the law, that would help people out a lot. Because there's going to be a lot of people that will probably go out of business because of the packaging thing. Some people buy bulk ahead of time because they have to use it and funds and stuff. So I hope they can work with us on this and kind of be blind to this, kind of like the plant count. Yeah, calling you out on that. Sorry, but I do have word that they're kind of working on that. So hopefully that they did hear that we've been complaining at this plant count stuff for the big guys and everything. The micros are protected by law.
Cool. Yeah, and don't be a micro that goes over.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
No reason. Like you got that for a reason. So
yeah.
I don't know. Like we're well under our limit, and we don't plan to be even close to it. So it's just kind of like just get what you need to get, and just do what you need to do the right way.
Yeah. Don't try to flood the market with mids.
Yeah, because then you kill yourself, honestly, when it's not selling anymore.
Yeah.
Figure it out real quick how expensive it can be.
Yeah, it is. When something doesn't sell, it's even worse.
Yeah.
And most of us here aren't these multi-million operated, or multi-million-dollar backed operations and stuff. But the last one I'll talk about is the consignment. There's a consignment part in the rule change where you get a discount on your license if you decide to do a consignment with another business, and then it goes behind this whole thing. The government's, pretty much not enforcing it, but, sanctioning this deal. And to me, at first, I was like, well, they're kind of setting themselves for a lawsuit. But no, they actually gave themselves an opt-out clause so they wouldn't get sued. I was like, well, this sounds like a terrible idea. Come to find out, this is also something that's going to have to change in the CRA. But fortunately, this isn't something that you have to do. This is something if you want to do it. Yeah. And to be honest, I don't recommend anybody doing this. In the meeting that we were having, Andrew was like, my tax guy would tell me no to do this. My fucking grandma would tell me no to do this, essentially. This is just, no one would tell you that this is a good business idea to do.
Exactly.
And so we found out that this is going to have to be something that changes in the law. And so we have a lot of work ahead of us, unfortunately. But with the rule changes and us being proactive like this, we can get some positive rule changes. Because you had a couple of good points too, when we had the meeting and everything that you brought up. And I was really happy to hear you, chime in. I was like, oh, dope, he's chiming in. So, it's great that we're doing that. And it's good that we're fighting like this. And I hope we keep it up because, it's important that we do this. If not, we get these rules that don't make any sense because you guys are hearing the proposed rules the way that they're written. Doesn't make any sense. And this is just a sample of a little bit. I've already gone through most of them with you guys. But Sunday we're going to go through them again. And we're going to go through even more fixes and changes. So next week I'll be back with another bunch of different fixes that we proposed. But I'm not going to be back till Thursday, and then the show won't come out till Friday. The hearing is on Wednesday, so you guys aren't going to get an update till afterwards. So your best bet is to join us on Sunday so you get all the information right then and there. You don't have to wait until the next week. I will keep all that information. I'll get all that information out here probably in the next couple of days, and then just check on my socials. I'm sure people are going to be sharing it, and it'll be great to have as many of you there as possible. Even if you just want to be the fly on the wall, that's fine. Just to hear how the whole process goes. And one thing I want to remind you guys. Ensure that if you're going there on Santa Fe on Wednesday to keep your public comment to 2 to 3 minutes because they are going to limit you on how long you can talk. I would say 2 minutes preferably. 3 minutes you can usually bullshit your way through. But 2 minutes, keep it at that. Your top 2 concerns is really what you really want to do. And then also make a public comment on the website. That way you can write longer and all your concerns can be on there. But your top 2, keep it to the 2 minutes. All right. And then we'll game plan and everything on Sunday too. That's another reason why we're doing this. Like, I'm taking over kind of one conversation, 2 of them, and then someone else's as well, blah, 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 so on and so on. So without being, long-winded on it, we're going to move on to the next conversation. But do you gents have anything else, on this, the rule stuff?
No. Do you have anything? No. I just think it's important for everybody because it affects everybody.
Yeah.
So even like the stuff that we were going over it does streamline down back to us. So like even on the packaging thing,
Yeah.
you know, like their bottom line is going to change on packaging, and then to us, you know, as far as, hey, it's different now in taxes. Like there's different things that affect maybe the retail side that will affect, you know, producers, manufacturers, stuff like that. So it's important to know what's going on, honestly.
Yeah.
I think because of the way that it you know, just changed down to everybody in the effect.
Yeah, it does.
So,
And one word can change a lot
Yeah.
of things. So keep that in mind. You know, read
Even-
things very carefully.
Yeah.
There's things that, you know, I missed and then other people saw, and I was like, oh shit, you're right. It does say that. So that's why we do this in groups. You know, it's better to do
Yeah.
that so that way we can catch things. And, you know, it's great to have these healthy conversations. You know, there was times where people disagreed, but it was very respectful. You know, like it was like, well, then we set ourselves up for this, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, you know, I kind of get that.
It's
So
nuance, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you have to have nuance in things like this, and understanding of everybody in the market. That way and that's what sucks, is it doesn't normally work like that, you know, but it's cool to see that there is some nuance in the group, and they talk it through and things like that. And I tell people it's important to join if you want to join, just to even be the fly on the wall, because you soak up a lot of information and things that are going on that you didn't really understand before. So
yeah, and then you get a better understanding of
interesting.
why, you know, versus
Yeah.
just like, oh, it's done this way. So thank you, gents, again for that great conversation. But we're gonna go to the last conversation today. I know this is probably a long episode, but it's been a great episode. I appreciate you guys' conversations. I'm gonna update you guys on Bright Green. I know I haven't done that since last season. Wouldn't say I gave up on them, but I just kind of was like, well, it doesn't seem like anything's going on, and they won't talk to me. Tier. But I have an update, and I guess I know why. So here's the quick update: is they went bankrupt. They filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which actually allows them to still operate with the equipment that they have and everything. But if they want to make changes to the company, they have to let the federal government know. And so like it's one of those things where the federal government has more of an oversight of what's going on. So they filed for bankruptcy, and what that means is that they either fucked up or just ran out of funds. And I think it was more of a funds thing, because I'm finding out a lot. And to be honest, I'm going to have someone on next month that's been a part of this whole process. They got denied like their licensure. And so I'm going to have them on next month. They're going to explain to us, you know, more in depth of how this works, what happened. I have pretty much a Cliff Notes version for you guys this week. So here in a couple of weeks, we're going to have someone give us the whole explanation of what's going on, and kind of gave me more of an idea of the reason why I haven't been able to get a hold of Bright Green and why they haven't grown one single plant. And one of them is the fact that they, you know, went bankrupt. They also didn't renew their federal license. So they allowed it to pretty much expire without notifying that they're going to renew it. So I think what happened is that they figured out that this is very expensive to do the Schedule 1 licensing, because it costs about millions and millions of dollars to get it. Getting the facility costs too much. And then they found out that they can't really do this for profit. It is for studying, and it is for medicinal. So the people that had it before, the 7 or 8 that have it now, because in 2021 the DEA pretty much just opened it up randomly, and they chose 7 to 8 companies that, you know, applied for it, because I think they canceled the contract with Mississippi, the college in Mississippi that was doing it for decades, and they were just growing terrible cannabis. It was just full of weed and mold and just they canceled the contract with them, and now you have these 7 to 8 that are not really doing anything, because most of them either went bankrupt, or they're growing like 20 plants. Because come to find out, if you have a federal license, you don't just get to grow all willy-nilly like you do with like a state license. With the federal license, you have to ask them for more plants, so they have to approve it. And then they ask you why you want more plants. And if you can't give them a good enough reason, they'll give you like 20, like I shit you not. Some of these places have like 20 plants. And so like, I don't know how they're staying operational with 20 plants, you know, trying to make a profit, but you know, it is what it is. Because if you have money from a study, you know, money from a doctor, whatever, you know, and they need to grow it for it, that's kind of what they're like, okay, cool. Here's the, you know, 20,000 plants you need because of this study that's going on in X place, you know, and they gave you X amount of funding for it. So it should amount this. But the DEA also has like a crazy quota. Like the quota they want is like 6.5 million grams. Yeah, 6.6, million grams. Like that is a lot of grams. And then they want, what is it, extract of 1 million grams? So like the quota that they kind of expect from, you know, you is a little ridiculous. And then on top of that, while I was digging this, and I was speaking to the person that, you know, kind of found out more and knew more because they were a part of the process. The DEA also hasn't been angels at all in this whole process. You know, they've been very selective and choosy on who they pick, and then they've kept certain operators out of it who had better interests for the medicinal and for the plant and everything. And it's caused some lawsuits. You know, there's quite a few lawsuits that are actually going through right now. And once we get closer to the date of having that guest on, I'll dig more into it and everything. But right now, Bright Green is one of them that's suing the federal government because they essentially made them fail. Like the DEA license failed because of the DEA.
Set up to fail.
Yeah, and so what started as something, me just wanting to know what's happening in my own backyard, turned into something totally different. And now I'm digging up on this story that's bigger, that involves 7 to 8, you know, federal companies that are federally approved companies. Well, some of them, not many of them left, I guess, and the DEA. And so now it's like this crazy thing. So I wanted to update you all that this morning, what started as just like, yeah, they're going bankrupt, turned into, holy shit, the DEA is more corrupt than we thought. You know, like, and now they are doing, you know, shady shit, you know, like, you know, this is like right here in your face kind of stuff. So what is your guys' thoughts so far on all of this? You know, I know it's a lot of information to process, but, you know, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, just thinking about it, it's kind of thinking you can go into somewhere and do something, you know, and then getting a totally different rundown when you get there.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, here's your agenda, and then here's the new agenda, or the actual agenda as far as what you can do, what you can't do, what we expect of you, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's kind of crazy to think that you get into it, like you're saying, with the quotas that they want, and then the plant counts that they give you, and then the restriction on plant counts is kind of set up to just fail. I don't know why they would do that, though.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if it's to get studies paid for in a way, I guess, because you're having to go bankrupt, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's for that reason or what it's for.
I don't know.
Say.
But, you know, from what I'm seeing, it seems like the DEA approved a bunch of shell companies, you know, a bunch of companies that just were set up to fail on purpose for the reason of making money. Because even Bright Green, they're still keeping, you know, their foreign investment stuff open, because that's one of the things that they were trying to push, is they were trying to get foreign investors to invest in the company so that way they can, you know, grow more or whatever. But then they found out, oh shit, we can't grow that many plants, you know, like, or, you know, it's harder for us to just get plants to sell, and we can't just sell it like we thought we were going to be able to do.
It's like, hey, where's my fees going, you know, where's the license fees and stuff like that going?
Yeah.
Like, what did you do with it?
So as of right now, Bright Green is essentially no more. And they don't have a federal license anymore, and they never grew a single cannabis plant. The facility that they have in Grassy, huge facility, massive, but not one plant, you know, was planted, and nothing was done. And to be honest, most of these companies went through the same thing, which tells me that there is something shady going on, because when majority of the companies out of 8 went through almost the exact same thing, like, that tells me there's something going on a bigger scale, you know. So we'll see as time goes on, and I'm actually excited to have that guest on here in a couple of weeks. And if you're watching, please watch when that's on, because it's going to be an interesting episode, and we're probably gonna be exposing a lot of interesting things on the federal government side on how this is working, and how the Schedule I licensing, to me, seems like a scam more than anything. Like, it just seems like this. What started as something humble and great, because, you know, the University of Mississippi, you know, they had it for so long, and they were doing great things. You know, there was those patients that were getting free cannabis from the federal government due to a study and an experiment, was coming from Mississippi. They would get a tin of joints like every month or something like that. Like I forget, a copious amount of joints. And like, I remember, you know, you can look it online, you know, the dude is like, yeah, I'm one of the patients, and he just smokes the joints and shit like that. And so, you know, after they shut down, you know, everyone else thought, okay, this is going to be a money grab, because it's different now. You know, you have all these states that have legal cannabis, and they thought this was going to be their route in to sell these Schedule I substances legally around the globe, and it's just ended up not really being the case. So I don't know if it was a mixture of a bunch of selfish companies trying to do the same thing at the same time, or the federal government going out of their way to pick shell companies because somebody in a higher office was going to benefit somewhere. And that happens a lot in government. Yeah. You know, it happens on the state level, the city level, and of course it happens on the federal level.
And it's like, what happens to those places if it gets rescheduled?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, is there millions that they paid for, you know, are you going to give it back?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you going to do with it, you know?
yeah, right? It's like, you know, you just you just made this person pay millions of dollars, and now that doesn't cost that. So like,
which is also a bad thing.
Yeah,
the rescheduling.
Yeah, the rescheduling
it's not
thing.
a good thing either.
Yeah, and I had someone on yesterday on my show because we did 2 this week, and he was more pro rescheduling than descheduling, and it wasn't the fact that he didn't want descheduling; it was the fact that he feels it was the right path to go and start. And to be honest, that's probably what we're gonna get at the end of the day if we don't keep pushing and pushing. Is probably going to be Schedule 3, unfortunately. And it's because the states, they went a medical route first, and then they went a recreational route afterwards. And the federal government is just seeing that. And that's probably what they really want to go off of. And the president has before really only voiced support for medical. He's never really supported recreational whatsoever. And most of the people in the federal government now in this administration have been the same way. If they do support cannabis, it's usually for the medical side and not the recreational. He came more for more of like the testing and like the pharmaceutical area. So his mindset is a little different than us, on this side of it. So I get it. But yeah, I'm more of a decriminalization kind of dude. It doesn't need to be on the scheduling whatsoever. We created all this confusion with the hemp industry. Now we're going to add this, Schedule 3 thing. And so then we're going to have all these industries controlled by different people for the same plant. Then we have these different regulations and levels for the same plant. And like,
it'd be interesting to see how they kind of format though. Like, do they leave it to the states to decide after that what they want to do, or that way? Because I don't know how that would affect the market, because does it change a medical and rec market?
Kinda. So you will only be considered Schedule 3 if you're following the DEA, FDA guidelines, right? And I actually experimented with AI yesterday or a couple of days ago with this, and on the surface level, they were seeing it as one way, but I'm like, it's not, and it was grok. It wasn't understanding that the states will more than likely not enforce that, and so they won't be following the FDA, DEA guidance. So there's still Schedule 1 activity going on. It's thinking that moving cannabis to Schedule 3 makes all cannabis Schedule 3 in medical. And I'm like, so you're telling me that a back alley dealer is now a Schedule 3 dealer? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
That's why I ask, like, how does it change the legality of it? Like, do we just become regular businesses? Like, are we
to be honest,
regulated in a different way? Do we dissolve CCD? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Like, what happens? Right now, we can only speculate. And the federal government doesn't even know right now. They're still figuring it out. That's why they haven't made an official statement on most of this, is because they're still like, okay, if it does this, it means this. And even then, when they do come out and say, this is what we're going to do, they're most likely going to get sued, and it's most likely going to go to court for a lot of the stuff that's going to happen, because we didn't do this right, and we created all this confusion and stuff. So we'll see what happens with that. More and more every week it's being talked about, and it's being more of a feels like more of a reality. So be prepared for Schedule 3. I think it'd be a wild hair ass that we get descheduling this soon. I think eventually we will, probably like 5 years from now if we get rescheduling. But I do feel that we're probably going to get rescheduling just for the fact that the way our administration in DC is right now. It doesn't seem very favorable for like adult use or deschedule.
Yeah, not to that extent. I don't think so.
Yeah, and even our prior administration before that, Biden, he was the one who started this process. The only one who did mention anything about legalization was Kamala Harris. And to be honest, that to me felt like it was just pandering for votes. I didn't really feel like it was like that genuine. Yeah. So you know what? Let's just legalize weed so I can win. Yeah. And I'm just like, now though, like that seems kind of sudden.
It's really kind of with everyone, in that side, because you look at that. Obviously, I feel the same way. I don't think she was very genuine about it, but I mean, you look at like each of these, administrations that come in and the promise they either make or don't make. I think because they started it, now the current administration feels like they need to be the ones to push it through, because hey, it's already been in conversation now this way. So it's kind of like, it's different things, there's different examples you could go through of like one administration starts something and then another one ends it and then takes the credit for it, so it's kind of like
then
justified at that point. But I think they do it just to to bring in another side of votes of whatever they're trying to accomplish, which they don't look at the fine details like you guys are, like we are, about rescheduling and different effects that it could have. I think really the only good thing, and it's just a part of it that comes out of if we get rescheduled is maybe we have better bank access.
We can only hope so.
Yeah, because I mean, if there's anything good to come out of it, it would be that at least. I guess that's your light at the end of the tunnel, operating, because it's not easy to operate, without banks and stuff like that.
Yeah, at least they're giving me a straw to breathe out of versus nothing.
Something.
So yeah. Something helps. So yeah, and looking at the positive, that's what I kind of hope so for too as well. And I hope it ends 280E. Will it probably end 280? Probably not. But we'll see. I mean, the feds haven't made a statement on that whatsoever. So we'll see what happens. The IRS has kind of been pretty much silent on it. So we'll see what happens. And I wanted to say this too. That a lot of the large MSO companies, like TrueLeave, they're actually one of the people that are pushing for Schedule 3 too. So they're one of the ones that are wanting this because they know they have the money to pay for all this stuff and kind of kick people out of the industry, because these big companies, MSO wise, around the nation are losing a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
Here in New Mexico, they're not doing great, and it's because we see the bullshit, and we see a better product at the end of the tunnel, but they see a way to corner the industry and to monopolize it.
Exactly.
And that's what worries me, is if we go to Schedule 3, it's not going to be what they think it is. The federal government is anyway.
Yeah, because we're still pretty fresh here.
Yeah,
exactly. Overall on the market, So I think they still have that window to be able to do things like that, and really anywhere. But I think here in particular, because we're so small, it's a smaller industry compared to other places per se.
Yeah,
it's thriving, but not everybody's thriving. So some of that will come and go, and then you get new people that come in. Like you said, MSOs try to take big chunks at a time, just take people out of business, buy people out, whatever they can do to just get that market share right away.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I don't foresee that going good for them either way, though, honestly.
Me neither, and normally it doesn't, when you get too stingy. So, stay small.
Avoid headaches.
Stay
honestly.
humble, my friends.
You'd be surprised. It's crazy, because you get into the industry and you think even being small, you're not going to have as many problems, but it can get pretty interesting. There's some interesting characters in the industry. I'll tell you.
Yeah, you're telling me.
Like there's people more, and I find out all the time that the people I've heard about me are like have been mentioned, and I've never met them or even been around. Like it's cool to meet people, but like you should have hit me up, Like up on Instagram or whatever. That way you like, hey, I'm interested in this. Like don't wait for it to come down a line through like 5 people. Like, Like I'm not, I like being small because everything is streamlined to me.
Yeah.
So, like messages on Instagram or like emails, everything just comes straight to me. So I don't have to wait for, a PR person or whatever, accounting this or that to do something, like it all just comes to me.
Yeah.
So it's pretty nice in that sense, I would say.
And, customers usually like it too, because they know they have that direct line to ownership.
Yeah. I'll message people. Yeah. I'm not, better than anybody or anything like that. Yeah. I'm not going to ignore a message when we get a message or anything like that. Like, hey, like whether it's feedback or they just want to say what's up or anything, like especially if I could help somebody. Like I've met people already through the inbox where I've met them like at a pop-up or something, and they message me and hey, do you think like we could do this or this or this? And maybe even some like trimming inquiries, like people wanted to come trim and stuff like that. But if I don't have the space, or like I find out more about people and I'm like, if I could help you in a different way, I'll help you out in a different way, Like there's one guy I was talking to recently, and he wanted to come in and do some work, but I'm like, I can't pay anybody right now, like I'm not looking to hire anybody. But like if you do need a job, or you need some help with this or that, like I know some people in the community, I know places where they're probably hiring, so like shoot me your skills or whatever, and I'll send you to wherever we can, to get a job inquiry. Yeah. So I'm not, it's not strictly on the weed. Like if people need help or something, like I don't mind people hitting me up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great to hear. Like there's not many operators that kind of think like that. Some of them think they're celebrities.
I'm just like, no, it comes all straight to me. Like I'm just a regular person. I'm just doing what I was doing at my house, on a little, and to me it's a little bit bigger scale, but I'm still like super small, So like it's not ever gonna go to my head. We just want to get weed out to people, meet people, make sure we're good in the community, because I think there's a lot of people that claim to be, for the community. And when it really comes down to it, it's not like that. So I don't know. I just try to stay true to that. If you're for the community, you're for the community.
100%, man. Well, that's pretty much everything I had for it and everything. And I appreciate the very last part of the conversation. Like that's some really good tips for some people, and really great thing to say. But this is all I have. I appreciate you gentlemen showing up today and everything. I mean, short notice again. And it's great that we have small people doing good things.
Cool.
You know, and you know, like the small farms, and you know, I don't mean like, you know, small people, but like, you know,
small too.
I didn't mean like little people, but yeah.
It's cool. It's cool. My mom's shorter than me too. So
Oh no shit.
it's
Yeah.
funny because my mom's like 4'11". I'm right in the middle, like at 5'5", and my pops is 6 foot.
Yeah.
So like we walk around together, and they're like, "Are you sure?"
The milkman's baby.
Yeah, no, but it's funny. I get it all the time.
Awesome. Well, I thank you guys so much for showing up on the show again, guys. Check them out wherever you can. You're just mostly in Cruces, your product, or
Yeah, well, we're in Cruces right now at Queen Bee's. We're looking at one more shop here. I've got a couple visits. We're trying to get another shop here. That way we're more local as well. We're at Token Tony's in Clovis. So shout out to Token Tony's. Renee at Token Tony's. He came down, took a look at the flower facility.
Nice.
We had a good time. So them, Grateful Llama. So Daniel over at Grateful Llama and Cedar Crest. We just got in with them. So they've got some stuff there. And then High Life in Santa Teresa.
Yeah.
So they've got some product there too. We just got in with them as well.
Dope. You're kind of all over the state.
Yeah, we're trying to kind of like spread it out. That way we can get it to different areas. And like I told you before, we don't have to have a whole lot of shops. So we want to build some solid relationships. Like, hey, these are the places we know, you know, if we're not on the shelf, we can send you there. They're cool people, you know, they take care of you. They'll make sure that they got good product there. Whatever it is, you know, they've got you. So it's been cool just getting into those few spots. And we're looking at a couple more, but I think ultimately we're just going to fill up maybe a couple more spaces.
Dope.
I'd like to do it here, honestly. So, I mean, it's just negotiation, you know, we got to see how that goes.
Yeah, you know, and picking the right place, you know, no one wants to do consignment. So,
no,
yeah.
And if you want, it's COD. So if there is any inquiries, it is cash on delivery.
We do that too. So I don't blame you, man. But thank you guys again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Senor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. And it'll be great to have you guys again next season for an update. I'd love to see the growth and everything. So thank you guys again for watching. We'll be back again next week for another episode of Ask Chat Grassy Logic. Don't worry, we'll try not to, you know, do a whole 2 episodes in 1 week thing, but you know, shit happens. So yeah, right. And Gino's over here tired of shit, and I appreciate your hard work. So I'll see you guys next week, and we're out. All right.
Awesome. Thank you.